All right, I don't know how many shopping days are left till Christmas. I don't know if you've completed your shopping or not. If you're still looking for gifts, I've got suggestions for you this morning. Because I think everybody is looking for something at Christmas. Sometimes we're sure what it is. Sometimes we can find it. These guys were looking for something that first Christmas. Went a long ways to look for a gift. Yes?
Can you kick the middle schoolers?
Oh, yeah, middle schools are going. There they go. Yeah, I thought maybe they left with the... There we go. It's all good. There they go. Don't they look happy? Give the middle schoolers a round of applause. Yes. There's always one in every bunch. Okay. Let's see here. The thing about Christmas is, think about it. Santa's looking, right? Santa's looking for who's been naughty and nice. And then, if it wasn't enough for Santa, we've evolved to a culture that got these little bitty people like hiding throughout the house, right? Can I just, I'm serious because I just want to know, because I really want to embarrass you. How many of you really have those little elf on the shelf thing going on? Oh, look at you guys. Yeah. That's the way we get our kids in line, right? The elf is now going to report back to Santa, okay? Elves are looking. Some of the, I was reading, these are some of the hot toys according to the Today Show. This is the Fisher-Price record player. I don't know what they go for. I don't know how long they last, but it's supposedly a hot item. Now, a couple of these I thought were pretty cool. This is a zero-turn lawnmower for ages 3 to 7. I'm seriously thinking some of you parents, when you talk about training, this is where it starts, okay? If it wasn't enough, if the zero-turn is like too much for you, I believe that there's hang on here, come on now. Oh, I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. Tractor. Lawnmower tractor. 24 volt. Now, you can get the Spidey bike, I guess if you're into the Marvel thing, along with, if I'm not mistaken, there it went. Hang on, come on back now. The Spidey, hand thing, the web thing. I could just see kids shooting that all over the house and being a good time. And then, our personal favorite is, hang on, this is important. This is Melissa and Doug's cleaning supplies. Yeah, we have a set back in the church nursery because we have a set in our house. You know, James loves this stuff, all right? Kids are looking for toys. And what did I hear? You probably have heard this too. The only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys, right? So, all right, that aspect I get. That's sort of what Christmas is about, the gifts, the giving, the what am I going to get, what's on my list kind of thing. I think there's some other things, though, that people are looking for that don't get talked about quite so much, right? I think sometimes people are looking for a do-over, and they don't know how to get it. If you really asked them what they would want for Christmas, it would be, could I take back that decision I made? I think sometimes there are people at Christmas that are really looking for happiness. They don't really know how to express it, but they've just not been like, oh, and they're just wondering, is this it? I think there are people at Christmas that would like to know. I have a sign in my office that says, trust the giver, not the gifts. And I think some of us feel like we are only appreciated because of our gifts, and what we would want is some validation as the giver. Would people love us if we didn't give? Would people love me for who I am? Do I have to keep jumping through hoops? I think there's some people that feel that way, and they're looking for that. Is there a sense of validation that I could get? I think there are people that are all ages that are looking for, what is this really about? I think there are people that are looking at 2025 going, what is the new year going to bring? When transition happens, what's it going to mean for me? We heard this week from Trump being man of the year, and I only say this because I have friends who said, hey, I'm voting for groceries, and he said, I'm not sure I can bring groceries down. But see, we were hoping for a change. And that change may not come the way we want it to, right? People are looking for a variety of things. Here's the deal. I don't know what you're looking for this Christmas. The toys are easy, aren't they? You can go buy this and hopefully it lasts. But the other stuff, meaning, purpose, forgiveness, fresh start, validation, I can't go buy those at Walmart. Those are tougher to come by. Ever since the beginning of this Christmas season, if you will, I think there's been this sense of people fascinated by the star. People looking at and just kind of going, I wonder. It started with these guys a long time ago, and what I want to do this morning is walk us through again that story of the wise men visiting Jesus and show that it really takes some courage to look for the things we talked about and not just blow them off. The kids read part of it. If you have a Bible, if you have an app, would you open your Bible to Matthew chapter 2? That's where the story is for us this morning. I want to read just the first part of it here. Matthew was writing to a Jewish audience. In chapter 1, he introduced Jesus as legit. He's a legitimate Savior. He traces his bloodline. And in chapter 2, Matthew gives an account of this visit of these guys from wherever. We got to guess of where they came from. But why would they come all this way to see this baby? Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod. So what he's doing is he's laying it out. You can go just check it out. Herod was a legit guy. Just go do your Wikipedia search. Herod was a king. He was not a good guy, but he lived, he existed, his family existed. It was a murderous reign. He was a narcissist. He was a very insecure guy, but he was a very powerful guy. During his days, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? We saw a star in the east, and we've come to worship him. And Herod heard this. He was disturbed. Think ticked off. Think whatever disturbed, I don't think does justice to the fact that he was like agitated in his spirit. And he was agitated, and we read then all Jerusalem, the people were. I think word got out that king's not happy, the people aren't happy. Not because I think they were all wigged out about, who's this king of the Jews? I think they were like, what's he going to do now that he's not happy? Have you ever run into a boss that when they're not happy, you're not sure what's going to happen? That's Herod, okay? So he called together all the people, their chief priests, the teachers of the law, all the kind of religious people, and he asked them, well, where this Christ was to be born? And so they said in Bethlehem in Judea, for this is what the prophet has written, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. Out of you will come a ruler who will be shepherd of my people Israel. All right, let me stop there. Here's what I'd like to, first off, just take us through this. Jesus came looking for us that we might look for him. I think that's the message of Christmas. Of all the people looking for Jesus, here's the thing I want you to take with you today. Jesus came looking for you. This is not about you trying to find your way to Jesus. It's about he's actively looking for you and wanting to know, can we have a connection? Okay? That first Christmas, if you will, here's your typical manger scene. We've got it up here, front and center. The kids portrayed it. Let me tell you why I don't think it's accurate. We're going to blow this thing up out of the water today. In Luke, it says, for those of you who are just sort of interested, just taking notes, it's all good. Luke, it says that after 40 days, Joseph and Mary took the baby Jesus to the temple to have him dedicated. If you've ever had your child dedicated, same idea. After the woman had sort of been purified according to the law, the mom and the baby would go to the temple and they would offer a sacrifice. A sacrifice that just says, God, thank you for this baby that we have. Okay? In Luke 2, you go read it. When Mary and Joseph went to the temple, those of you who know the Bible story, what did they offer? What did they offer? Doves. 2 turtle doves. You know what the significance of 2 doves was? That was the poor man's tax. That was the least you would do, the very least thing that you would do is offer 2 doves. Now, think through the Christmas story with me, those of you who know it. How was Matthew describing Joseph? What kind of guy was he? What was his character like? He was an upstanding guy, right? He was a righteous guy, which meant he was right with God and he was right with people. Joseph was not going to be one that was going to cheat you. He was not going to be one to kind of do a fast switch. He was not going to tell you one thing and do another. Joseph was a stand-up guy. That's what it says. Mary, when the angel went to Mary, the angel said to Mary, "You found favor with God. You're a righteous woman. And because of that, God's son's going to be born through you." That's the first couple. Here's what I want you to understand. Would they go to the temple and scam the temple with a poor man's tax if they had more? I don't think the Magi were at the Christmas scene. I think the Magi were maybe a year to a year and a half later, because they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They brought very expensive gifts that had Mary and Joseph had them, when they went to the temple at day 40, they would have offered them. They offered 2 turtle doves. They didn't have any more than that. So the Christmas story, by tradition, has been, I think, spliced together. We've got Luke talking about some shepherds, but Luke never mentions the wise guys. Wouldn't you think if the wise men had been there, Luke would have put it in the story? You got Matthew. Matthew's talking about the wise men, but he never mentions the shepherds. They don't seem to be there. It's possible that both writers just omitted them because they didn't fit their narrative. It's also possible that there's 2 different occasions. That Luke recorded the actual birth night of Jesus, and Matthew, when he's writing about some time later. These wise men from the east arrived, and I think it was after Jesus was maybe 12, 18 months, maybe up to 24 months, because we know in Matthew that after the wise men left, Herod had all the babies 2 years and younger killed. Why? Because they were going to be a threat to him. Remember? The wise men came saying, "Where is the one born king of the Jews?" And in Herod's mind, he was the only king. And there wasn't room for any other rulers on his seat. So he had the babies killed. It's called the babes of Bethlehem, and they were slaughtered because of a narcissist, control freak leader. All right, so I got these guys coming out from the east, and they're looking for this king of the Jews. Here's the first thing that I want us to sort of, if we can, understand, is that the wise men really came looking for a king. Interesting characters, wise men, magi, philosophers. They were people who studied the sky. They believed that the stars, the constellations, gave insight into the future. So they really college professors, smart people who think about life. Why are we here? What's our purpose here? Is there something beyond here? That's what these guys did. They were not kings. We 3 kings of Orient are. They weren't kings. They weren't royalty. But kings did consult these guys. If you think of our political system, we would have a president, and then you would have a cabinet of advisors. People that are supposedly really smart in a specialized field, right? That would have been these guys. And so I've asked myself this week, and I don't know if you ever have, why would these guys that are probably, they say the journey was 4 to 6 months, 500, 600 miles away. What prompted these guys who were pagan, not Jewish in any way, why would these guys go looking for a Jewish king? I mean, seriously, there were people who didn't go 5 miles to see a Jewish king. Why would these guys travel 4 to 6 months to do it? Would you go? How far would you go to see a king? What would it have to take to move you, to move your needle, to make you get out of your seat, to go see for yourself? These guys went looking for a king because I believe if you look back and you look at where Babylon was, which is modern day Iran and Iraq, that's where Daniel was, about 400 years before. Daniel was a Jewish man that was taken captive. He was taken prisoner by Nebuchadnezzar, but God raised him up. He lived a righteous life, even in the midst of a pagan environment. People think God can't be exalted. He can be. Daniel was tested, but it says in Daniel chapter 2 or 3 that he rose to be chief of the Magi. He was that influential. He was the guy that centuries before, I think, wrote things, left things about a coming Messiah that I wonder if these guys read. And they're just, I was wondering, is that true? Daniel, remember Daniel? You know, for what would it be like for us? Some of you can remember political leaders of the 50s and 60s. Was there people in the 50s and 60s that wrote really smart things that we would look at today and go, do you remember when they wrote that? We still read the writings of Lincoln. Lincoln's been dead 100 and some years, right? And we still look at Abraham Lincoln's writing. Do you remember when Lincoln said, a house divided ain't going to make it? Huh? Is that huh? Could these guys have been reading Daniel and read about a coming Messiah and looking and passing it down? And then the star appears. What was the star? There have been scientists have looked at the star. There's possible that there were some constellations, Jupiter and something came close together and formed this brilliant thing. We're just not really told. You know what I think it really was? I think it was the glory of God. I think God set something in motion in the sky that was visible for everybody to see. These guys saw it. They had the prophecies of Daniel, and they're like, let's go see this. Let's go see if this is true, because if this is true, this is a game changer. The king of the Jews? And so they, looking for this king, rode into Jerusalem, maybe 100 people. You got we three kings of Orion. Man, blow that up. I mean, because we're not told. We just got 3 gifts. We're not even told how much gold. What if there was 4 buckets of gold? Right? At any rate, these 3 important people strolled into town with donkeys, servants, everybody. It would have created a scene, and the first thing they do is they go ask of Herod, where's the king of the Jews? You know why they did that? Because they didn't want Herod to think they were spies. Come in to scope out the land because they were going to bring an attack from the east. They was like, hey, we're up front. Where's the one that we've read about is born king of the Jews? And Herod's clueless. He's like, I'm the king of the Jews. Have you ever run into somebody that's an egotist? You want to get under their skin? You want to belittle them a little bit? Just challenge them to their authority. Who's the one in charge? You watch them. Wait a minute. Who do you think? I'm in charge. And so Herod, though, is clueless about Bible prophecy. He goes and calls the religious people around him and says, all right, where's this king they're talking about? Because I'm the only king here. They were looking for a king. Herod, the other thing I want you, the second set of seeker, if you will, if I can make this work. Second thing is just beware of pretenders that look for power. See, Herod says in the text, he called the Magi back. He said, go to Bethlehem and look for the child, and as soon as you find him, report back to me so that I would go and worship him too. You know, I have my Bible. You can see my Bible in pencil. I have the word liar. He's a liar. Herod had no intention of worshiping Jesus, but he said the right words. He said the right thing. And I think there are people today that pretend that they want to be religious because they think it affords them a certain amount of credibility, maybe in some circles power. There's nothing really in the heart that wants to worship, but they know how to say the right things. And I would say to you, beware of people who say the right things, but you sense there's nothing genuine going on in the heart. Those are scary people. Because what they have is plausible deniability. Well, I said I wanted to go worship him. Oh, come on. He had no intent to go worship him. He had babies slain afterwards. Herod himself had his 2 sons put to death. You look in history. He thought his sons were plotting against him, and at 2 different times he had 2 sons. He had them both killed. Herod's a guy that had his wife killed. Herod at his death is recorded in history. The words, what he said was, I know no one's going to cry when I die. So what Herod did was he had 70 prominent Jewish people rounded up, and he gave orders at his death to have them executed, because he said there will be tears shed on my death. That was Herod, and he was the guy in power. And so I think we always need to be careful when people in power pretend that they want to worship. And it could be a family person, could be a political person, could be someone out in culture. When people in power pretend that they want to be right, it's really easy because you just see it in their words and their actions. And you just go, they don't line up. The things I hear and the things I see don't mesh. Herod is one guy that I think I can see the hatred, the hostility. You know the thing that I marvel most about, though, is these guys. The religious leaders. Herod went to them and said, so where's this baby at? And they knew. They knew. They spouted it off. Yeah, here's the prophecy, king. And the interesting thing to me is, if these guys knew it, and the travel time, if you look at the map, is about 6 miles, why didn't these guys go look to see if it was true? I understand people who are hostile to Jesus. I totally do. I get it. You know what? I think, I said in my post this week to you guys, almost everybody. Did you see the kids here with the little cotton on, the little sheep? Weren't they cute? They were. I mean, James was over here. He's our grandson, their son. He was cool, right? Are these children a threat to you? Not at all. They're cute. Jesus becomes a threat. Jesus is going to be a threat to you. Babies are not a threat to you. Jesus will be a threat. Do you know why some people don't like Christmas? Because Jesus is honestly a threat. The easiest way I can illustrate it is if I do this. Do. If you've not grabbed a yard sign, I got 8 left. Do. Here's why Jesus is a threat to you. How many people can sit on this at a time? You tell me. Can we share this? You know why Jesus is a threat to you? He wants to sit here and you want to sit here. And you both can't sit here. Somebody has to be in control. Someone has to call the shots. And you want to call the shots. It's as simple as that. You say, well, man, I just don't think, isn't that true for everybody? You know what I was thinking this week? This is not a slam. This is like, man, look at this with your eyes. Have you followed the transition with Trump? And what is the thing that's being said in culture about what's important for the people that will serve under Trump? What do you hear? That Donald Trump Jr. said, we don't want anybody in the administration that thinks they're smarter than my dad. There's only one person going to sit on the throne, and that's the president. And if you think you know better than the president, there's not a spot for you. That's what's being said. It's the loyalty test. So let's not kid ourselves that we don't understand what it's like to be loyal. You're going to watch it play out in the next 60 days. People who are disloyal won't have a spot. Only loyal people will have a spot. Only one person can sit on the throne at a time. Jesus wants to sit on the throne of your life. Jesus wants to call the shots in your life. You want to call the shots in your life. You both can't do it. And so that's why I say to people, over here, baby Jesus is no threat. He's cute. You can sing the songs. But you know what? We're adults. I got to decide how I'm going to live my life. I got to decide what my principles are. I got to decide what my values are. I got to decide what's important to me and what's not important to me. I'm going to decide who I worship, where I spend my money. Will it be Jesus or will it be me? Beware of people who pretend to be religious for the sake of power, because they will burn up and they will hurt those around them. And that's what's true that's what happened with Herod. And the greatest concern is for people who I think are religious but indifferent, who know the truth, who know the right things to say, but won't travel 6 miles to worship. And it just plays out a lot of different ways in life, doesn't it? Religious people know that they should do this, but they want to do that, and so that's what they do. Religious people know they should say this is the way they should think, but man, I don't know. That was the scribes. Just indifferent. Didn't even want to bother to check it out for themselves. The third thing that struck me this week, the third seeker in this story that I think we often miss, is Jesus, who came looking for us. What was the whole purpose of Jesus coming at Christmas? Luke 19, to a guy and to a crowd, Jesus said, I came to seek and to save those that were lost. Jesus came at Christmas looking for you. Jesus, I think we in church oftentimes say, let's look for God and got to go after Jesus. And we forget that Jesus wants you. He wants me. He wants my heart. He knows what I start with. He knows I've got questions about purpose and feeling worthwhile and feeling loved and needing forgiveness, dealing with baggage, carrying that stuff, and Jesus wants to carry it. Jesus came so that I might, and died so that I might live. John 3:16, for God so loved the world. That's you and I. That his one and only Son came, that whoever would believe would have eternal life. People say, it's just too much to believe. It's really not. I'm just amazed. You believe idiots far more. You just do. You're going to believe. You're going to leave this church, and you're going to go right or left, and you're going to go to a stoplight, and you're going to believe the people that you never even met stop their cars. Don't tell me you don't believe. It's just you believe in yourself. You believe in your wisdom. You believe in your smarts. You believe in your power. You believe in your health until it's taken from you, until you're no longer smart, until you no longer have income. And then you begin to crumble inside. Maybe not outwardly, but inside, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do if inflation goes? What are we going to do if I lose my job? What am I going to do if I have this report back from the doctor? That's what we do. And Jesus came looking for me, knowing I deal with that stuff, and says, will you let me help? Will you let me sit on the throne? And Mike, will you just kind of like follow along? Will you be loyal to me? And there really is a loyalty test with Jesus. We just don't think about it the same way. He says, hey, will you follow me? What's following Jesus look like in real time? I'm a baseball umpire. I'm on a field, and a coach says, F you. F that call. That's terrible. F you. In real time, how do I respond? Real time. Right there, how am I going to respond? I get back in his face? You're not going to talk to me that way. F you! Because I've seen basketball officials use that language on a court towards other coaches. You're at work, and a subordinate embarrasses you. Not your superior, because if it's your superior, you eat it. By and large, you eat it, because you're not going to dress down the boss, right? But an inferior person embarrasses you. How do you respond? Do you exert your power over them? Remind them who's in control? Because you are in control, right? Right? That's why you got that position, because you're the boss, right? You get a pay cut. What gets sacrificed in terms of where your money goes? What are the things you hang on to, and what are the things that get cut? And one of the things I find interesting, no slam, one of the things I find interesting, the first thing that goes in giving when people get a pay cut is giving to the Lord. Not giving to my kids' sports teams, not giving to my clubs, not giving to my Netflix, but giving, because the Lord will understand, won't he? Listen, don't hear in that condemnation, hearing that's just the real world. Jesus came to help me deal with the real world. I'm living in the real world. I have to respond and live in this thing called the real world. How will I do it? And Jesus came to help me stay on track. Jesus' promise is that he would go with me whatever I face. If I walk through adverse circumstances, I walk through poor health, I walk through... Anybody here have in-law problems? Yeah. That was funny. Can God help with that? Something as simple as I was amazed, I didn't know this. I was talking to a couple people and they've had it confirmed. That just makes me think it's interesting. You know, what's been said is that the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, more people drink the Wednesday before Thanksgiving than about any other time of the year. Do you know why? They have to face family the next day. That was interesting to me. You know how many people will be, probably the drinking will increase over the next couple of weeks, next week, because a week from now, you have to be with people that you don't want to be with. How do you get through it? So, can Jesus help me with that stuff? Because that's what he said he came to seek and to save and to help me deal with that stuff. And I would say to you, you have enough faith to trust God and follow him. It's just, we're back to the seat. Do you want to let Jesus sit on the seat of your life, or do you want to? And this Christmas, and with all that you're looking for, I want to tell you, I want to promise you, based on what God said. So these wise guys, they go to the house, they heard the king, they saw the star, they went, and it says they were overjoyed. They came to the house, they bowed down, and they worshiped. You know what blew me away? If you think about this, see if I have this. Where'd it go? Come on back. Come on back. Boom. Come on. I'm sorry, people. All right, Lord, maybe this is what you want. Can it not go back? Can you give me back? Trying. One more. See that guy there? James is 18 months. I think when the wise men showed up at the house, they encountered a James. I think they didn't have a babe in the straw. I think they had a toddler. And can you imagine these guys with all their power and all their prestige bowing low to a toddler? It says that when they came to the house, they bowed down and they worshiped. They brought their gifts. They looked at this toddler And they said, no palace, no guard, no royalty around. He's carrying a brush, a broom, for Pete's sake. The only little power this guy's got is a fake remote. Right? And they would have looked at Jesus and they would have said, King of the Jews. King of the Jews. You're worshiping something. Team's coming back up. They're going to lead us in the last song. You're worshiping something. I want to ask you if you just be honest. When we start searching, looking is hard because it calls for courage. What are you looking for? Who are you worshiping? Seriously. Who is it you're following after? Where's your allegiance? If somebody says, will you bow down and kiss the ring? Whose ring will you bow down and kiss? It's happening all around us. We can see it in play. I'm asking you this Christmas, will you bow at the foot of Jesus? Will you let him call the shots? A teacher had a student and was explaining to the student the meaning of Christmas, why they give gifts. And she said, we give gifts out of a celebration for God's love in sending us Jesus and in celebration of the friendship that we have for other people. That's why we exchange gifts. I don't know why you give gifts. Sometimes it just feels like I give gifts because I've got a check and I got to write it. Okay, but that's not why we give gifts. It's a remembrance that God sent us a gift, and there's a celebration that we love each other. I genuinely love the people that I give gifts to. Sounds bad, because if I don't give you a gift, it doesn't mean I don't love you. Okay, never mind. All right. So the teacher's explaining this to the student. And a week later, the student walks back with this really, really beautiful seashell. Very exquisite, it's polished, it's like, and the teacher's like overwhelmed. The teacher says to the student, where did you get this? And the little boy says, names the bay. Oh, over such and such bay. And the teacher, knowing the area, knows that that's like a 6-hour walk for that boy to get there and get back. And she says, you shouldn't have. That was like a long, wow, how did you do that? Like, why did you walk that far? And you know what the boy said? His face got really big. And he said, long walk is part of the gift. Jesus coming? The long walk was part of his gift to you because he loves you. He honestly wants the best for you. He wonders if you would fall down and worship like those first wise men did. If you've had the courage to look for truth, to ask yourself honest questions and not be satisfied with simple answers. Who are you worshiping? Why are you here? What does God want to do with your life? Because I promise you that he wants to do something really, really incredible. Let's stand.